Hello cartoon tank fans. So today we got another Meng model kit. It's WWT-012. That means World War Toons, kit number 14. This is a video game. Here's the licensing, I guess, for it. And today we have a British tank called the A12 Matilda II. And there's a nice little blurb here. Let me get in on there so you can read that. In fact, I'm going to read it. Let's see. Armored limited maneuverability used by the British at the start of the war. So only the Flak 88 was able to penetrate this. Okay. And then we have a weight of 26 tons. So I'm not sure if that classifies this as a lightweight tank or a medium tank. I'm going to guess medium, but please leave a comment if you know better, because I don't know much at all. Only a crew of 4. Interesting. Of course, this is the earlier part of the war. Alright. Pretty slow. Alright. It's been crushed, so I'm a little bit worried. Hopefully nothing's totally damaged in there. And it looks like it's in safe condition, but sorry for the coughing. Air pollution. I'm gonna die early from the air pollution. I find that the plastics in these are pretty darn good. There's not. Sometimes you do get the molding flash, but this one seems to be safe from that. So you do get these rubber tracks, which isn't so good. I really wish it just had plastic tracks, because paint doesn't really want to stick to these. They're molded nicely and all, but the paint doesn't want to stick, so it's hard to weather rubber. Okay, yeah, there we go. It's all gray. And then we have water slide decals. I find that they're really nice. It's just that they're so tightly spaced. You gotta trim all those numbers out, or because those become decals also. I guess you could even have it as a German repossessed tank, but being a British tank, I'm gonna go with the English flag. Alright, so 258. That looks like German lettering to me, but I could be wrong. Could be wrong. And then the instructions are very easy to understand. You just have to look at numbers and shapes. I'll probably do a freestyle version of this. In fact, the other photos I see of the real tank, the angle of this paint is backwards. It's usually going this way, not this way. Anyways, I'm not going to copy probably anything in this book as far as the camouflage or in reality. I'll just use them as like inspiration. I watched Oddball, I forget the channel, Oddball, and like some 3 numbers. He mentioned that you're going to have to fill in the gaps of these cylinders with some putty probably. And okay, so yeah, so that pattern, I see photos of real tanks like with this pattern, but on both sides, whereas this is negative, it's opposite. And here are some paint recommendations if you really want to try to make it like the renderings here. And this is where you're supposed to place all the decals. Okay, well, as usual, fast forward and catch you at the end and discuss any problems I have. Alright, bye. let's learn about this tank. I'm reading Wikipedia here. This is the only British tank that actually served from the very beginning of World War II to the very end. And it was in service in some countries up until 1955. Around almost 3,000 of them were made. We already went over the tonnage before, the crew. This thing was powered by two V6 diesel engines from Leyland buses, or AEC buses. Both engines were tied to one drive shaft, so if one engine failed, it could still move with the other engine. But this was a really heavy, underpowered beast. So even though at the beginning of the war, it was pretty impervious to most German fire, but then the Germans started bringing the anti-aircraft Flak 88 and making that an anti-tank weapon, and then these things started to get destroyed. And also the German tanks got bigger and heavier with bigger guns and all that stuff, so yeah, the attrition started to get pretty bad later on. Let's see. This thing has a maximum speed of only 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. And that's on the road. Off-road, it's only 9 miles per hour or 14 kilometers per hour. I mean, you can ride a bicycle faster than that, so... Okay, well, I guess that's all I care to learn about this thing. I suppose it is considered a medium-sized tank, being around 25 tons, was it? Yeah, 25 tons, so... Alright, so this paint scheme is copied out off of the World War I battleships. They had very similar disruptive type of camo, where they're all block patterns. So they weren't wavy or anything like that. They were literally, apparently, masked off to have straight lines. And that's what I tried to do here. Alright, so as you can see, the color choices I made are a little bit different. I did see some image where it had like this really light, almost lime green color, but that could have just been the hue saturation of the photograph or the monitor or something like that. One thing that is also interesting is these two smoke dischargers are just cut down Lee Enfield rifles, I guess. So that should be brownish or something, but I have like a rusty color on it. Okay, so as you can see, compared to the real photos, this turret and machine gun are very enlarged and stylized compared to the real thing, which looks pretty scrawny. Okay, let me stop this thing and let's start talking about the build. It was a pretty straightforward build. It's just that I'm an idiot and I put this the thing that receives the two barrels in upside down. So I had to break the turret apart sideways and then flip it over and then put it in. So you gotta pay attention to the directions, of course. Okay, so let's just pop this off here. The turret has a key weight 90 degrees, so keep that in mind. This antenna is literally molded into this piece here. I kind of wish it was separate, but I guess one good thing is eventually when this thing breaks off, being plastic, you have enough of a base here, like you can sand it down and very much drill another hole anywhere in this base, and then have a metal, wire replace this thing. So I guess I'm thankful for that. The hatch here does pop open, and this is the best or strongest hinge system I've seen so far in my collection. The hinges are actually missized, look how narrow or short this one is compared to that one. But yeah, this is the strongest hinge I've seen, so that's great. And possibly you might be able to get a little cartoon character in there, but we shall see. Let me close that up because it's blocking some stuff. Seems to be like a searchlight up here. One thing that's missing from a lot of this are the periscopes and optic windows. I don't know what these two things are. I can't say they're optics, but there should be periscope holes along the sides of this round part that's sticking up. Cupola, I think it is. But they didn't mold this piece to have a side mold. It's just going up. So it would have been nice if possibly this was molded separately so it could have, some recesses to put some black paint in, if not actual openings. So it's almost like this turret has absolutely no way for the people inside of it to look out. So that's not very realistic. Some of the other tanks do have, little slots that you would expect the cartoon characters to look out of. Okay, so yeah, the machine gun and the barrel I drilled out a little bit further because this had a really big plane and you could easily see it, so I used some drill bits to make it deeper. And then as far as articulation of the barrel, not much. Only a few degrees, that's fine. Here's a seam line. Yeah, this part is split vertically, and then there's a top cap and a bottom cap. It's okay, I guess. I mean, I could have put putty there, but I was too lazy. This seam here was covered up much better just by an excessive amount of paint. Okay, so that's the turret there. The hull, there was absolutely no problems except for my own error, where this thing, the way it was on the molding runner, I clipped off the peg that was supposed to locate this side into the hole of the hull. So I ended up just holding it in place with some crazy glue, and that's why it's there. But the other ones, I managed to keep all the pegs after realizing I clipped it off at the wrong point. This is just some silver display marker, these headlights I used. And then it's nice that it has these decal of the Matilda, some sort of 67. I have no clue what this decal is supposed to represent. Please leave a comment if you know. I don't know why you would have that. It almost looks like it should be a mechanical part of the hull, but I don't know if it's supposed to be like a painted on thing or not. The rubbery tracks, I don't want to spin them. They couldn't spin, but all this weathering will just fall off. So when I built this thing, I did put the tracks in. I just painted all this thing tan, and I didn't care because it was very easy to just stick my finger and rub off all the tan paint. I see here's I left some because it looks like sand, but oh, this is under clear coat now. Actually, that's not so bad. It's sticking now. Oh, maybe not. Okay, well, anyways, just be mindful. It's rubber. Paint doesn't want to stick to rubber. Not this flexible rubber, at least. Let's see. Physically, what else do we have? There is a seam here, and I didn't use any putty. Just crazy glue, and the decals covering up those seams, but you can clearly see the seam there. And same with the turret. This bottom part doesn't have a mold to go in this direction, but there should be a sight window here and a sight window there for the driver. This is supposed to be, I guess, rotatable by the driver. So you don't have any of those window details, the periscope details or anything, so that's unfortunate. So okay, this track here I put on after I painted the thing. After I painted it, there is a locator pin on the bottom side, but I just clipped it off and then just slid the track in and used crazy glue to mount it in the general location. So it's got some rust effect on there. Alright, the rear exhaust pipes, quite interesting. There is a physical break right here. You can see the seam line, and over here as well. I was too lazy to add putty. I thought the rust would help fill it in, which it did, but not enough. And then they're leading down, I guess, one into this. I don't know where that's going. And then the other is obviously going to this muffler here. So I'm not sure where the end of this muffler is, right? So like gas is coming out of the engine, going in here, but where is it dumping the gas? Maybe it's coming, I don't know how this exhaust system works. I'm gonna have to assume this drum is an extra fuel barrel because there's no pipe going to it like an exhaust. I'll leave a comment. Let's see, the decals, yeah, the instructions didn't call for these. They called for these on the German occupied tank, but I just put them on here because we didn't want to waste them. I also put the third one on this little thing here. That one does belong on this British version. And then you have this British flag. Now the British flag is covering 3 rivets, these things. And so I had to use decal softener like 10 times to eventually make this soft enough to conform around these, and it made it crack here and also crack there, but it's under clear coat, so I don't think it's gonna break off anytime soon. But yeah, that decal is pretty thick. It took a long time to soften that thing up. Sorry if I lost focus, hold on. Okay, anything else physical? I looked at photos of this thing, and the real photos I don't get the impression that these are headlights. They just look like boxes. If you rewind to that image, I don't think those are headlights. So I put some black paint wash in there, and I don't know what they are. Please leave a comment. It's almost like they look like speakers. The Wikipedia did mention that in Australia, where they're fighting off the Japanese, these things are running in the jungles, so there's such tight quarters that they installed a phone on the outside of this thing, so the infantry walking around this could just communicate to the people inside the tank. So but it doesn't make sense to have a microphone here. Maybe these are speakers to talk back to the infantry around them, like get out of the way, we're going to fire the cannon, that kind of stuff. And maybe somewhere back here there's a phone, but again, I don't know for sure. Please leave a comment. Okay, well, I'm assuming these are hinged on the real tank and open up for access. I don't know to what. Maybe those are air filters, perhaps? I don't know. These 4 hatches, I assume, would pop up on the real tank as well, but I'm not sure what they would. Maybe 2 to access each bank of each cylinder head? I don't know. I'm not going to guess. I'm also a little bit curious as to why this is here. What is this thing? It's got these rivets and it's round, as if it would spin. It didn't come with the tracks for this side, only that one extra set of tracks there on that side. Nor did it come with anything to attach to these. I don't know if these are supposed to be hand grabs, maybe they are, but being cartoony, they almost look like you would put something in here, like a metal rods to store or something. But maybe they're hand grabs. I think physically that's all there is to talk about here. Now, paint-wise and weathering-wise, I'll bring out the paints I used. So, I used this Dark Sea Gray by Vallejo. I also used Rust for the darker parts of this exhaust system. And then the more lighter parts, which coincidentally end up looking exactly like this tan paint, is this Crusted Rust Deposits by AK Interactive. And this stuff is awesome. It does seem kind of roughly finished, not as smooth as normal paint. So that's great. I also experimented with this Streak and Grime. So that Streak and Grime is like a really slimy, it's a slimy kind of paint or something. And that's what you see here under each of these rivet heads. I just pulled down the paintbrush and then sometimes use my finger to drag it down. So these 2 things are great. I'm going to have to probably look into the other colors of the rust to layer it up. But it has to be the crusty one. And then yeah, for some reason, painting this rust color on top of this brown rust color on these exhaust pipes makes it look like this tan, this is a Thai brand I get locally, but it costs the same as Vallejo. But this one has like a ball in it, so it helps shake up the paint better. But it doesn't fit Vallejo racks because it's literally a bigger diameter. So yeah, you probably don't have access to it anyways. And then this funky green is Verdigris or Verdin. Anyways, so that's a Vallejo paint as well. So those are the paints I used, but underneath all this there is Vallejo black primer. And you see here I chipped away some paint. And I chipped it away using a copper brush. So I just wet the brush and then I started dragging it all over this thing, and you can see the copper brush strokes, getting through that paint and weathering it, and eventually literally getting down to the black primer. So other people, put the chipping effects on top, but I would rather literally chip away the paint like a real scratch, right? That's what this is. These are real scratches. So this AK Interactive Rust stuff, you can see the orange highlights in here, like there. It literally looks like rust, right? It's very impressive. So before I was using pigments that look like rust, but dry pigments don't really want to stick to stuff. But this wet stuff, it sticks a lot more. So I think I'm liking this more than the pigments. Alright, so that's great stuff. Maybe one day I'll do a review of those separately just to layer up some rust, but I gotta get the other ones first. Okay, well anyways, that was my paint process. I black primer, then I painted tan, and then these 2 are hand painted, these 2 other colors, and it takes like 10 layers of very thin paint so you don't have any brush strokes. So that's why it looks like it's airbrushed, because I laid it on. But it's very time consuming. You just slow down my fast forward build part of this video and see for yourself. But the copper brush, yeah, brass brush scraping through the paint is very effective for weathering, because it literally is scratching away. And as long as you have a paint color underneath it, or the raw plastic color underneath it, it's fine. So that gray is the raw plastic, by the way, because these fits are generally pretty tight. You can see it scratched it away. But now it's kind of loose because I scratched it so much. Okay. So here's one of those like MOC block action figures. I did reviews of this if you want to search MOC. And yes, this guy's upper torso, if I lose this radio at least, it will fit in there. They're not as cartoony as I would like, but it doesn't look like a real human, so, and you can pose them, so I guess that works until I get some other more cartoony figure that's really small that can fit in there. Alright, let's look at some other tanks. So here's the French Samoa tank, and this I believe is a medium-sized tank. And yeah, the French also had the funky horizontal camouflage ideas. Interesting. And they may have run into a German Panzer II. So this is supposed to be a medium. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is a Panzer III. Oh boy, I gotta find the Panzer II. I did some research. Yeah, the Panzer III is designated a medium tank. It's only 23 tons, so it weighs less than this tank today. But this is another case of scaling issues. This thing is definitely smaller than the heavy tanks in the Meng model lineup. So I think this is sized correctly. I just think maybe this is sized too small. Or it's a super dense armor, which is making it small. I don't know. I did bring out the Panzer II just for good measure, but this is classified as a light tank. So it should be smaller. And it is. It's shorter. But it's not really narrower. In fact, the Panzer II, they're the same width. So there's a little bit of discrepancy, I think, but I might be wrong because I'm not looking up the dimensions of these tanks. But these are both only 2 tons apart in weight. But this looks like a heavy tank compared to that. But even worse is the Sherman tank. This is a medium tank. I think these are like 30 tons, so heavier than both of these. And look how physically small this is. It's just ridiculous. It's smaller than both of them. It's like the size of a light tank. So even though it's the same company making the same line of World War Toons tanks, they must have weird decision makers there. You know, I don't know how these three are medium tanks when they're so physically different in their width. Alright, so it's almost like the Sherman's the narrowest. But you know, these two Germans make sense: light tank, medium tank. Just thrown off by these. And the Samoa being a medium tank as well. I think that sizing is okay. The Sherman's just really bad. Alright. So final spin. These are some Toy Story Army figures. Granted, that'd be US Army figures, but I don't have anything more cartoony than that could be related to British infantry. Here's an image of them in the North African campaign. I don't know if this is the earlier part of the war where they're kicking butt, or if it's the latter part of the war where the Germans are kicking their butt with the bigger tanks and the Flak 88. So anyways, it's nice to see a bunch of them though. Very cool. And you can even see, even though they were black and white photos, you can see the sharp edge of that dazzle camouflage pattern that they are mimicking off the warships of World War I. As usual, I really enjoy these World War Toons tanks. This is a really straightforward build. Nothing was even that tight. Like, I didn't have to drill any holes open or file out anything. Everything just fit fine. I did add some glue to certain things just out of habit, but I don't think it was really necessary. The only thing I did wrong is I'm an idiot and I put that in upside down, but that's my fault. So if you want to try out a relatively simple tank that looks kind of funny, Yeah, all these World War Toons I think are good, but this one in particular seemed pretty easy to build. I still probably spent over 10 hours making this though because I had to paint it. So this hand painting took hours and hours because it's like 10 layers there. Now anywho, I will see you guys in the next World War Toons build. I still have, I'm going to guess, at least 5 more kits. Alright, thanks for watching today.